Let's jump into this. All right, so how's it going, you guys? Welcome back to Modify Classics with another episode. Today we're going to be discussing, how to buy a car. What are the things to look for? Some secrets of the trades. And yeah. So I'm David,
I'm Savon.
and let's jump into this. Everything that we talk about today, it's just our opinion. It's not financial advice. So do your own research. And let's get started. All right.
And this is going to be like more overview stuff, right? Like it's not going to be as specific as like how we've been before in the past about like particular models or anything like that. It's going to be like more like a
I think
breakdown.
it's gonna be a lighter episode for sure because it's gonna be more of just kind of like our experience and what we look for.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a little bit more personal because I feel I was thinking about this yesterday, and there's things that I look for like when looking for a car and buying a
Right.
car, and I feel like you don't do it, but there's things that you do and you look for that I don't
Right.
look for. So I think
Right.
it's perfect. I think it'll mix in perfectly well. So yeah. So let's see. All right. So researching markets. Where do we start with there? Where do you want to start with there? I know that there's completely different outlets.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
I personally I started with Craigslist way back when, and it was so good back then. But I think the whole the car resellers kind of saturated that market,
well,
and
I'm going to go a step before that, which is like
okay.
not platform specific at all. I'm going to go with like more mindset or disposition. I just had this conversation with my friend the other day.
Mhm.
You want to be aware and invested in the market enough to where when you see what you want to see as far as indicators or options, you can take advantage of it versus being restricted to a timeline based off of what do you call it? Like the odds of what's going on in your life or just like conditions that are relevant to your life right now, right? So it's like if I wanted to buy a car, a specific car, I don't want to put myself in a predicament where I'm like, oh, my car blew up. Now I need a car. I should have been looking for that car for the past 6 months or a year,
Right.
depending on how heavy I was going to invest in the car, what I was going to use the car for. So that's what I want to really talk about before getting into platforms is like, I think one of
The
the
mind
biggest
the mindset aspect of it.
the mindset aspect. I think
Right.
one of the biggest mistakes people make is not committing to the car before they buy. So then once you get to the car, there's all these things where you're like, oh, damn, I wish I knew that. Oh, damn, I wish I knew that. Which is like, if you would have took even like 2 months beforehand to immerse yourself in the communities of the car you're considering buying, like I bought a Genesis Coupe, and just for me specifically, I when that car came out, I was I think either a sophomore or a junior in high school for perspective. So I was on that car and interested in that car before I bought it, and I didn't buy one until 2017, I want to say, and I was a junior or sophomore in high school at 2010 or 2011. So just to give perspective, that's like 6 years in the market, right?
Hmm.
So I was on forums because that was the thing back then. Facebook really wasn't like that big. Like you said, Craigslist was huge back then, but I really wasn't looking at Craigslist. I was on the forums looking at what was being discussed, looking at the development on the platform, looking at what people were complaining about, looking at the tuning options, looking at the parts options. So then I started getting the full perspective of like, okay, in the community, who's a heavy hitter in terms of like a parts provider or a
Hmm.
tune. What's the common mod list that people usually do? What are the frequently asked questions for more or less like not a sticky section because there's sticky sections in forums, but even before the stickies up, like I'm on the website enough to see the same questions pop up to my brain's just logging them, right?
Right.
So then at that point, once I got the car 6 years later, I'm well versed with the car. I know all the common problems. I know their failures. I know who's been in the market, like providing parts for them. I know the tuners, and then at some point I become like a dealer for a tuning company, right? But that was because I did all of my research years before I even bought the car. And by the time I bought the car, I had the network of people I already knew to go to for this or that, right? And I think that's one of the biggest issues when buying a car is people don't really commit to doing the homework beforehand. So then when you get the car, it's like, damn, I didn't know if I literally bought, I shouldn't have bought the first 2 years of production. I should have bought the third year of production because
Mm,
they
yeah,
they resolved
absolutely.
that
That's a
rod.
really good point. Yeah.
They resolved and reconciled that mounting issue. They resolved and reconciled the wiring problem. And my experience could have went from, you know, it's a nightmare to I love this car because I picked specifically the model I want, which the community knows those 2 first years are problematic, right? So
Can I just put a pin on that really quick? I want to like just touch a little bit on this, and I'm not really sure with cars like 2015 and up, right? But it's like I do know that a lot of cars in 2000, which is what we're talking about, right? Modern classics. A lot of cars end up having like a facelift year where it's the same car, but they have slightly like, and it's like first 3 years of production, you'll have like a car, and then you'll have 3 more years. In those other 3 years, it's the facelift.
right.
Um, and it's very true that what you're talking about. Like, I think that this was really big in that time. That it's like, I remember that. Like you, I remember it when I was looking for my car, right? Not how we're looking at it now in the sense of like investing in cars, but when I was looking to buy a car back then, it's like, yeah, you didn't really ever want the first or second year
Right.
of that of the first and second year of that car. You wanted either the facelift or like the one right before the facelift, because then, like you said, because of like the complaints or whatever, the companies did the research on and they saw their weak points in their cars because they're actually being driven and weared out. They ended up replacing those things on the facelift um,
Version.
model version. Do you know if that still happens with cars now? Do they still make facelifts, like in the sense, or
Yeah,
it?
they for sure do facelifts. Because okay, so like remember we were talking about Mustang stuff, and I know we're like, all
Right.
over the that's how we are. But S550 Mustang 2015, right? That was
Mm,
like new chassis, independent rear suspension. The 5.0 is great again, after the first generation. So that would be
okay.
a generation 2 5.0, right?
Right.
Then you had like 2018. They did a facelift. So you have your 2018 model that had like the smaller headlights, right? And then those went to being direct injected, right? So then you have that iteration of cars. I think they bumped the compression on those as well. And then now you have like the S650, which is technically still an S550. They just did a different front end, a different taillights and fascia and all that kind of stuff. Big digital screen, but it's still the same Coyote engine. So you go from like
But
2011,
is it still the same chassis?
from 2015, it's the same chassis to
Okay.
2020,
All right.
right? So there was different issues. Like I think the Gen 3s had like a piston slap thing for a little bit there. They were breaking like shift forks, things like that, weird little things. And then, for better or for worse, they've made variations or improvements on those cars. I would say the biggest thing that I've seen recently, which is like a class action lawsuit, would be Ford's, like, I think it's the CP4 fuel pump for their F250, 350, 450, 550
Hmm.
stuff, of those failing. So it's like, that's like the new generation for, I think, 2023 or 2020. 2020, I want to say it was actually, for the newer Power Stroke. Those have had
Hmm.
issues from then till now. So it's one of those things. It's a perfect example of that. Like, had you been paying attention and you looked into the market, that would be well known. It wouldn't be hard for you to figure
Right.
out on Facebook groups or forums. But if you were just a uneducated buyer, brand new truck is a brand new truck. You can't beat that, right? But then when the fuel pump blows up and they got to replace your whole fuel system and it's 15 grand, right? Let's say the dealership doesn't want to cover it under warranty. Well, now you're in a little bit of a pickle.
Right.
The layman's not going to be like, oh, I'll just put an aftermarket fuel system in. They're going to be like, well, I want OEM parts. Well, it's going to be 15 grand. Like, who has 15 grand to just throw away on a truck? Even if you have it, you're not trying to throw it away on a truck. That's a whole truck.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that's a whole truck in some cases. So it's like that one part of information could be enough to keep you from making like, maybe I did want a 2020 plus F250 or 350, 450 high output because they make like 1,050 or 1,080 foot-pounds of torque, so I could tow a house. But maybe I'll do the previous generation that's not known to have that problem. Or I know it's a problem, so I'll upgrade the fuel pump when I get it,
Hmm.
right? So these are just different ways of navigating and curating your own personal experience based off of information you got from doing your research, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's how I see, like, in terms of mindset. Like, if you're in the market you can navigate. When you're just getting in, you just go to the dealership or you just pick this car up from Marketplace or Craigslist. You don't know the first thing about it. You're like, where's my mom in Walmart? She left me. I'm in the chip aisle and I thought she was next to me, but now I don't see her and I'm freaking out. You know,
Hmm.
I feel like that's how people operate. And then at that point, you're kind of scurrying to try to figure out, oh, well, like, what's this? What's that? What's the fix for this? And then it's all this stress where it's like, if you kind of knew what was coming, you could plan for it and
Right.
could put money aside or whatever the case is to resolve that issue. So that's what I would get into before we get into platforms. Is just the mindset. But now we're into the platform thing. I would still definitely recommend forums are extremely valuable. They
Yeah.
are quirky and outdated because it's just, you know, your old format of .com. But
Hmm.
there's a bunch of very valuable information on there because it was a different time and it's a different kind of owner who will do a whole write up of like beginning to end with pictures, how to replace this part, beginning to
That's
end,
what I was gonna
you
say,
know,
dude. Like it's crazy because
like
it's like I don't think any other platform besides YouTube will give you that detailed like of instructions because it's true. It's crazy. To me, it's just crazy taking like 25 to like 30 photos of like how to replace a thing and it's all photos and you have to like organize that, you know? It's like
it's like
for
a
me right there and
personal
then I wouldn't do it, but in forums you still find people that do.
it's a personal article like write up like for sure beginning to end how to almost a lot of the times on there they're better than what you would get as instructions from wherever you bought your part from. Like they're not just
Right. Yeah.
oh they'll give you an outline, but they're not
Yeah,
going to
because
have
like AutoZone has books on like, oh, if you need to change this, here's a book on
yeah
how to
like a
show you. No.
something yeah for sure. So it's like you have like full on write ups of like okay, there's this little issue I ran into when I was installing it. Like I tried to do the lazy way around it, but it's better if you like, for instance, maybe you have to pull the motor mount and pull the motor up, and then you can install this pipe,
Hmm.
and that will, you know, speed up the process. Don't even waste your time trying to like not remove the motor mount. Just do it off the
Hmm.
bat, get the part done. It takes 5 minutes to pull the motor mount, but if you try to do it the other way, you know, it'll take you hours. So it's like little tidbits of information like that, or like I had to relocate this thing to over here. So like
Right.
that's the behind the scenes part about cars
Or even I've even seen like where they teach you how to make custom tools,
for sure.
right? That they're like where the like if you find like a manufacturer instruction book, they won't
Yeah,
tell you that.
no,
They'll probably be like, oh, you need this or whatever, and like the part is like super expensive, the extension is super expensive, and somebody will be like, no, just grab this, bend it real quick, or if you got a welder, weld this, boom, 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 and do it
right,
like you're solid.
right, and that's part of like the value of those sites. So then you have it gives you more perspective of like, do I even want to get into this?
Right.
Because a lot of it is like the everything is selling. Everything that you see is selling. And in like an indirect way where it's like not selling you something directly, but sort of, right? Right now. So it's like we're selling you upsides. Nobody's selling you the reality of like, hey, you could get a BMW, but you got to get specialty tools. Or the engineers put everything super compact, so you got to pull the like the Audi, right?
Yeah.
Why would you put a timing belt on the back of the motor? Who put the timing belt back there? Like, bro, not drop the whole subframe just to swap a timing chain. It's like I don't want to do that.
And the timing chain is also a nightmare.
Right. So that's one of those things that, like beforehand, you just think it's a regular car, but no, no, no. Engineers, big brain ahead of you, and you're like,
Mm.
damn. Nobody on the Audi page told me like this was the thing because everyone's got the new TTRS. They don't have the, you know, V8 S4
Right.
or whatever it is. It's like
The
that.
4.2, yeah.
Yeah, that's part of like the car ownership experience. And then when you get into modifications, it's like the same thing. They're only selling you the upsides. They're not telling you the things you're going to have to give up or you know everything is a trade. It's always a compromise, right? So like you're getting this pro but you might be getting this big con, and for you on a day-to-day basis the pro doesn't outweigh the con. Yeah, it might
Yeah.
be cool, but like it's a detriment to your ownership experience, and I think that's a huge value set. But you're going to have to do the work and go do the research so you know like, oh, for instance on a Mustang, yeah, it's sick to have a twin turbo Mustang, but you got to relocate your ECU. Like, do I want to relocate my ECU? Oh, it'll be
Right.
behind the tire now, the front
Hmm.
tire. Well, if I'm trying to drift the car and I'm putting an angle pin on the car, the PCM can't be in front of the front tire. But that's
Right.
where everyone defaults to putting the PCM. So
Yeah.
now it's like, just because I added the one variable and I want to drift my twin turbo Mustang, the shop who does twin turbo Mustang installs all the time, they're going to put the PCM in front of the wheel and I'll be like, bro, I can't do that. So
Hmm.
now the specialists who this is what they do, they're going to have to figure out another way to even maybe extend the wiring loom or jumper harness to put the ECU somewhere that's not going to get freaking baked by the downpipes to the turbo, and
Hmm.
your wheel's not going to hit it,
Right.
right? That's just one variable where it's like it's made everything extremely painful.
Hmm.
So knowing that ahead of time is like, maybe I don't want to do twin turbo because it's
Yeah.
going to cause these other carry-on effects. Maybe I'll just put a blower on it because I don't have to do anything,
Right.
right? So that's where I think for both ownership and modification, it's extremely valuable.
Yeah.
Moving on to like sellers listings would be actually sitting back and analyzing the listing, no matter what website you're on. I think Bring a Trailer, Classics, Cars and Bids, they all do the absolute best job of presenting cars, which is why you see those cars go for maybe 30% more, maybe even 100 to 200% more on those websites than your common market of Marketplace or Craigslist or even at a dealership, right? Because they make sure that you see every inch of the
Right.
car, what you would be concerned about. And relating that to like a Marketplace listing or a Craigslist listing, if you're looking at a listing and the people don't take half of the time to, set up a photo and show the car in its beautiful state and show things that you would want to see, that owner wants to sell the car, doesn't really care to put the effort in to get maximum return.
Right.
So they're going to try to do something like, oh, KBB or current market price, I'm going to put that. But their listing doesn't reflect that value, right?
Hmm.
But off the bat, based off the pictures in the description, this person put no effort into listing this car. So I know I can negotiate a deal with them, even if they say price is firm.
Hmm.
I know I can negotiate a deal because they weren't serious about it, right?
Right.
Um,
So I want to just give a real world example of that because I was gonna ask you about it because I wanted you to dig into it. But I was looking at a E55 that I sent you, right?
yeah,
And the reason why I'm bringing it up because it's like the car was a color, and for E55s, they're not color. E55s aren't that common, and the price was kind of it was up there, right? And I sent it to Save On, and I was just like, dude, check this out. I can't believe I found it. And like first thing you're like, dude, pictures are shit. Like this guy doesn't care. And it's like it's true because before I sent it to him, I thought that the car was black, right? And it's
I thought the car
everything.
was, I thought the car was black, and then I read the description. I was like, "What? It's
Yeah.
blue." I'm like, "No." Scroll
But like
back up.
that's the thing. It was like in the shade. And like all this person did, the seller, was just pretty much turtle wax spray, the exterior, tire shine. And it's like because what Savon is saying is that they just were trying to put the KBB on there. This is what it's worth. Pictures were shit though. It's like they weren't trying. So it's like it's something very important to look at when dealing with these modern classics because some people I know that this seller knew that he has an E55 and that it's dark blue and that it's worth something and all this stuff, but the seller isn't trying or
Yeah,
whatever,
because
meaning because like it's not a priority on their list. I mean, homie probably has like a freaking Mercedes GT for all I know, right?
well,
And this does mean something to him, and he knows about it, but it's like it's also a whatever factor, right?
for example, right? You sent me the listing. I scrolled through it. My first initial response was like, the mileage is decent. The condition of the car looked fine. It didn't look like perfect, but it didn't look like crazy
But it
worn.
wasn't terrible, but it wasn't
No.
perfect. Yeah.
So the exterior wasn't perfect, but it wasn't terribly worn. Interior, the same thing. I didn't know the car was blue. I read the description and it's like blue exterior, blue interior. I was like, fucking where? I scrolled back up. I zoomed in and then I'm like, oh, it is blue outside.
Yeah.
Oh, it is blue inside. Now, zoom out of that. When you're scrolling on a marketplace or cars.com or auto whatever, you see that thumbnail, that's a black car all day. That's a
Yeah.
black car. So if the car says 25 grand and it's black and it has 90,000 miles, bro, I could give two fucks about a black car with 90,000 miles. I don't
Right.
give a shit what's on it. I don't
Hmm.
care. How many people scrolled past that listing because they assumed it was a black car? If you would have never sent it to me direct, I would have never looked at that car.
Right.
So the simple fact of like this works for both parties of like one for the seller for him getting more money and two for the buyer of getting a better deal. Knowing that the seller did that, all he had to do was pull the car out of the shade or just take pictures on a day where it was sunny outside. So when the sun hits it, you could actually see the blue pigment in the paint. But it
But
looks
like
white.
to even add it, and this is, and I'm only bringing like shining light on this because for the viewers, is that it was a sunny day. He just took the pictures in the shade,
Under a damn
which
tree.
which is just like calling his bluff in the sense of not about the car being bad, it's just that about how serious he is and motivated he is and the wiggle room that he might have that he's trying to cover, right?
Right, exactly. So that's the thing of like, okay, so if you would have just took 2 seconds to say, like, I can't even see this, let me pull the car out in the sun, take the picture of the exterior all the way around. Let me take a picture of the interior. It had dual sunroof and you didn't open the sunroofs. Like, bro, what are you doing? So you
Mm-hmm.
get light to come in, roll all the windows down. Then now the interior is illuminated. You can actually see blue pigment in the weather. And then the people go, oh, exterior. Oh, this is interesting, right?
Right.
It catches my eye. Let me look at this. Dual
Right.
sunroof. Even if you weren't a blue on blue person, you saw the dual sunroof. That's not a common option. So if
Mm-hmm.
you were the type of buyer that's like, I have to have one with a dual sunroof, aka me as a retard, it
Mm-hmm.
has to have the dual sunroof, right? I'd
Mm-hmm.
see that regardless if the car was purple, I'd be like, I'll put that on my consideration list
Right.
because it's got the dual sunroof.
Right.
And that dual sunroof might be the thing that brought me to that listing, right?
Right.
So
You
that's
can
where
definitely tell, like, just and this is me as a photographer, right? It's like this was just something on his list for the day that he had to get done.
right,
And you can tell that he took the photos within 15 minutes.
right.
It's like I don't think it was, I don't know. Maybe they were iPhone pictures. I don't think they were. Maybe to me it seems like a point and shoot. Grabbed it 15 minutes, popped the SD card in the computer, gonna make the listing, boom, drag
That's
drop.
like the listing you make when you're like, when your wife's like, you gotta sell the car. You're like,
That's
all
what I'm
right,
saying. It's like
I'll
because
go list it. Like, takes pictures, put it at over market. No one's hitting me up. I can't sell it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, because like that's and it's like I'm saying like I'm just making the context of it because like you said the guy was moving or whatever. So I'm
Yeah,
just playing the scenario in my head is like, when are you gonna put it up for sale? We gotta move like next month and blah blah
right.
blah. Come on, and, it's like, and the guy's like, ah, fuck, all right, whatever, boom, 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 boom. All right, it's up.
Yeah. So
You
that's like
know,
one of the things where it's perfect. You just mentioned something I totally forgot because I just dumped the listing out of my head other than like those base parts.
hmm
I'm moving, right? So that means I'm telling you I'm under leveraged. I'm on
right,
a timeline. I need it gone. So
hmm
I'm asking top of the market, but I need it gone. Those are counterintuitive things, right?
right.
So going into this, I know like, okay, he needs the car gone. All right, he has it listed up for sale. I don't remember what website it was, but it was one of those mainstream sites. So like if he had personal information,
Which I'm gonna let you continue. Which I believe that on the seller's side, saying that I need the car gone is also trying to tell you, hey, there's nothing wrong with the car. I'm not getting rid of the car because there's something wrong with it. Just to kind of like tell you, hey, this is why I'm getting rid of the car, which is where you could take advantage of,
that's what I'm
right?
saying. He's
So,
trying to put on his timeline. So it's like, okay, and then the car was on like some major website. I don't remember what it was, but it was listed as like a private listing on like where a lot of dealerships sell their cars. Having access direct to like a phone number or email, I would just shoot him an email or text or whatever. I'm gonna come look at the car, and like if I had been seriously planning to buy that car, and let's say my budget was 15 grand, and he had it listed, I think for like 18 or something, I'm still gonna pull up in my brain. I'm buying this car for 12 grand.
mhm.
Why? You're moving. Two, you didn't put no effort in the listing. Three, yeah, the car's worth X, Y, and Z. But here's the thing you got to realize situations will give you more equity than like any other thing. So, situationally, because he's moving and he doesn't have time to sell it and he's got all these other things to move and all this other stuff, and maybe, like you said, he has two, three, four other cars, this is not a priority to him and he's not, bound to it because he would have figured out how to keep it. So, knowing that, it's like, I'm going to pull up with like 12 grand. And yeah, is it under market? 100%. Are E55s top of the market for anyone? No. Is it a highly desirable car in the E55 community? Maybe if you like
This
blue.
one was. This one was.
If you like blue, maybe, but there's a bunch of people who would hate the same color combination interior
Right.
exterior.
Yeah.
So How many people have pulled up with money in hand to give you an offer? No one.
Mm.
I guarantee you, no one pulled up and gave him an offer. If they did, it was one person, and that other person probably did what you did without the money. And they're not there that day.
Yeah.
So you're going to be the one who's going to get that deal. Long
Yeah.
story short, you're going to be the one to get the deal, period.
Right.
So that's like part of the analyzing the listings, regardless of what website it's on, that you can use things the buyer will tell you as ammunition to negotiate a better deal for yourself because they're in the situation. I don't have to buy the car.
Yeah.
I want to buy the car, right? So that's giving you the upper hand in negotiations, which for me, I would never put that in a listing unless like I didn't give a shit. I just want it
Right.
gone.
But I just think that that's just the seller being naive because they want it gone and they want somebody like it's like them shooting themselves in the foot because they're saying that because like I'm gonna list it for this price. I'm gonna tell you why I'm doing it. And it's this price because there's nothing wrong with it. It's only the sole reason that I'm moving and that's why I'm getting rid of it. So don't try to lowball me
Yeah,
because you got a great deal, but it's like no, you're losing your leverage, man. It's like you know,
exactly. So then I would do like after doing all the research, whether it's using the forums to get a temperature or Facebook groups to get a temperature on demand and how the community operates and what they value or don't value, I would definitely just do like a general couple months of research, just looking at what's on the market for quality and for options and colors. And, great platforms like I know KBB, a lot of people use it, but KBB doesn't take into account like cultural influence. So
right.
while the insurance companies might value the car at 15 grand, the actual community values the car at 30, right?
Mm.
They're being bought and sold all day for over 25. So
Yeah.
that's where the nuance of like using it as a reference point, but not the only price anchor is relative. So like sites like the Bringa trailers, classic.com, I think we talked about before, they have like, they log all of their sales. So you can go on there and like,
Yeah, I'm
here's a
not sure. I'm not sure. I think classics.com is just like data. Um, it's like a data website that just kind of like collects all the information of like and catalogs it for you.
Well, they do the listings on there too, because I've seen
Okay.
cars I can't find anywhere else. I've seen them on there. They're like more desirable cars. They don't move as much volume, it seems like. But it's cool because then you could go on there and see like, let's just say E55 AMG market, right? If they sold 100 of them, then you have a data set of 100 cars. And you can go in there, I think, and click the dots, the data dots,
Right,
and
and they'll show you the
it'll
car.
pull up the actual listing of the price, the miles, and you
Right.
can go and look at the condition, right? And since you have the graph of like say 100 data points, it'll start to map them out with the dates too, which is
Hmm.
very important for context. What they sold for, so then you can kind of see like the delta of like, okay, is this ownership or value uh, trending up, trending down, running midline, or is like the market all over the place? And that's where you'll see like a dot up here and a dot up down, way down here
Right.
below the median. And you'll see it across the whole timeline, right? Where it'll be a dot up here, dot down here, dot up here, dot down here. And then you have a pretty large cluster of median sales, which to me, that indicates like the median is pretty strong, but then you have underliers and overliers, which are like, okay, ones that are below the median, they're trash or the listing wasn't good or they had high miles. And then you have the ones that are way over median. And that's like, that's the cars that the community is telling you, or the collectors are telling you that's the peak car. So
Yeah.
those are the cars that got like 10 miles on them, like
Right.
silly,
Exactly. Yeah.
silly shit, like 10 miles on them,
Yeah. Right.
1995, whatever the fuck it is.
Right.
Or
Right.
an escort and it's over 50 grand.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like
No.
that,
Yeah.
but you can start to take that as like, let me go look at the peak sellers and say, what's common amongst all these peaks? Oh, they're all this color. Oh, they're all this transmission. They're this year. They're this like, I don't know, interior, whatever the heck it is, like pattern or color or whatever. And you can start to mentally compile that in your head of like, okay, well, it'd be a safe bet if I bought this one that went for a peak of market. Let's just say I bought one with like reasonable miles on it and
Mm.
it was okay condition. Well, now I know that everyone in the community and the collectors are stamping that, right? So it's a pretty safe place to put my money. So that's how I would go about it. Um, I think one of the biggest things to do is like, again, not commit to buying the car before you see it. I know that's hard to do sometimes, especially if you are looking for a specific color
Right.
option here. But I would take that. If you do all that work beforehand, you're gonna know who the serious owners are and who aren't
Right.
by just how they list the car and the condition of the paint and that kind of stuff. The little subtleties in the listing where you're like, you know what, this dude's been super professional. Like their listing is super professional. Maybe in the background of the listing, you could kind of like peep a little something, be a little nosy, like, yo, that's at his crib. Like that's a nice house.
Yeah.
He's got like a Bentley in the background.
Right.
I can see the swimming pool in the background and it's covered. You know, like
Yeah.
it's got its own enclosure. So like, yo, he's got money. So the odds that he's gonna
Or you just like can see what's inside the garage. You see a car like on a battery trickler or
right,
something like that.
it's
That says a lot, you know.
little nuances to the listing where you're like, you know what, this dude cares. So like, if I bought this car sight unseen and he shipped it to me and there was a problem with it, more than likely he would be very transparent beforehand. And after, if there was a problem, he would be like, "That's I literally sent you all the documentation for maintenance." So
Hmm.
like, you know, you could be pretty confident in your buy. So I think that's part of the not, you know, emotionally committing to it beforehand, um, and using the community, you know,
Yeah.
so that you can have an educated buy.
I want to just introduce an alternative way to finding these modern classics that I found out just because of kind of a hobby that I had, but I've found that you can find gems this way, right? The first and they're both kind of related. So the first one is if you live near a senior community, right? There's somewhere around there, drive around them. I bet you anything there's going to be an area where they have cars for sale, right? Why? I mean, sadly, they pass away. The family needs to get rid of the car because they don't want it. And dude, these cars are, it's not surprising to see them sub 70,000 miles, right? Really good condition. A lot of these cars in these senior areas, it's like they're not really driven. You know, they're only there because for when they really need them. And if they're not being used, they're in the garage. And
For
if
sure.
if they really don't use it, it's probably in the garage with the car cover. So it's crazy, right? So I'm really huge into like going to places near those senior communities, because you just find really well kept cars. The second one is estate sales. The thing about estate sales though is that you really don't know what's ever going to pop up on them. So it's like it's something that's a little bit more intensive in the sense that you got to kind of be on the estate sales and be on the lookout for them. But the thing about the estate sales, it's very similar to the cars that you find for sale in senior communities, except they're always a little bit more rare because it's like the people don't ever sell them or like I don't know. It's like
They
maybe
only
they're the ones that like the family either like those. It's because estate sales are normally because like they can't get in contact with the family. So it's like the ones that are for sale, like the ones that you find out for sale, are the ones that the families don't want. Because if it was something good, normally somebody in the family would stay with it. Where
yeah.
in the estate sale, since there's no family contact, it's like you end up finding like I've found like third gen Rams or Cummins, but like specked out and it's not super specked out, but like the specs that you want, right? Like the crew cab, like dualies has 30,000 miles on it, like something crazy like that, right? Or recently I ended up finding what is it, it's either the Chrysler or Plymouth, the Prowler.
Oh yeah.
Like you remember that from like
Yeah. It's like
2000s?
wheels with the little
It's
fender,
like it looks like a
little
grasshopper or
bunny.
something like that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like a grasshopper.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I found one of those cars and it completely like left my head, right? And then I saw that because I think that was in a game too, like one of those arcade games. Like yeah, that car was like really big in that. But point is that I found one for sale on there, like at an estate sale, and I'm just like, dude, this is crazy. Now, whether you fancy that car or don't, you can't argue that it's a classic, quirky car. And no matter moving forward, it's like nobody built anything in production sense that's close to that.
I would say
And
only thing where like I remember Chevy building quirky stuff like the HHR or
Hmm.
the I don't remember the other one. There was like a SSR, HHR. I think the HHR was like that little small truck thing with like an LS,
Yes.
but it was like so
Yes.
quirky
Yes.
and small and weird. And I feel like the only other thing that would fit in that category is like a modern like Thunderbird, like the
Right.
almost like the Mary Kay looking ones, you know? The
Yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about.
yeah, yeah,
You know, so just the funny thing about like either even we can like let's even put those cars in there, right?
for sure,
The difference in why I'm saying that the estate sales are so good, like let's just say you grab both of those cars, they have whichever one of those cars you want to pick, they have 30,000 miles on it. It's in a garage. The difference is that if you find those cars for sale, it's because the person knows what they got and they're going to price that into the to the listing. Where in an estate sale, it's like never have I seen a car actually go for what it's worth at an estate sale. No matter what car it was. Like if it's like this Prowler or whatever, let's just I don't know the market on these, but let's just say the 50,000, right? It's like I'm not saying that it's going to be super cheap at the estate sale, but I could see that thing going for like 30,000. That's like almost half off, right?
for
So it's
sure.
like that's the thing with estate sales. I like estate sales, but it's a lot of work.
You
It's a
have
lot
to
of work.
you'd have to be liquid too is the other thing. Like you have to have
That's yeah,
money.
exactly. So those are just two alternatives that I wanted to put out there because I just don't really hear people talk about that. And it's like you could really find some gems if like if you're really getting into this and you're really serious uh, and you're trying to just find stuff that it's like almost in a sense that's just been forgotten in people's
For sure.
lives. Like that's where you go. Senior citizen like living areas and estate sales. Really huge on that.
I mean, and you could even find like depending on the region, because you know all places are not California, but like you might even be able to find some gem like how do you want to say gems? Old muscle car chassis that are worth money. So like even something like a super ratted out like 60, I think it's like a 69 Charger, right?
Hmm.
The rusted out bodies in like horrible condition, no interior, no glass, no trim, nothing. Those still bring in like 8 grand.
Hmm.
So it's like if you know that and you could find one that's reasonable, you might be able to get that car for like 500 bucks, two
Right,
hundred
right.
bucks. Like, get this piece of junk out of here. It's
Yeah,
like what
exactly.
that's not even something that was in the listing because they think it's a piece of shit just in
Yeah,
the yard. And you walk up, you're like, what? This is here. You might be able to capitalize, and who knows? You might be able to capitalize on getting it for free because they just want to fucking on. Like
right, exactly.
it might happen because it's not
They'll
so.
pay you to take it out.
They, they, they didn't even think to list it. They're like, you want hunk of junk?
You want that? I'll shoot you 100 bucks to get that out of my yard.
It's literally inside of a blackberry bush, like the
Yeah,
blackberry,
exactly.
you know. So it's like, um, that's something just to keep in mind. You might come up on something like that for sure. So yeah, those were definitely great mentions for sure. Because I don't even operate in that, but even like Craigslist, as old as it is, Craigslist and OfferUp, those are both places where you can score some deals because there's not a lot of traffic on there, but there are the people who only know
I
those.
think from what I've found with Craigslist, at least, is going to just like the for sale page, like the tab, don't search for the car you want.
Yeah,
Go for the tab because that's just popping out the most recent thing because that's where the deals are. Realistically, just being like a Craigslist veteran, it's like the best deals only last like 12 to 24 hours.
and people mislist stuff all the time, which is part of like
Yeah.
the platform being outdated. It's not as like even on Marketplace, I've seen it too. Sometimes Marketplace will have glitches, and like a truck will be listed as like a 1992 Chevy Caprice or something weird like that, but it's like a diesel truck
Right.
because somewhere in the like listing process, it glitched and it messed it up, you know, or even like it'll be listed. Don't even sometimes put your search parameters super specific because sometimes there's manual cars listed as automatic cars because the system wouldn't let them switch it to manual. So you're
Mhm.
gonna fuck like, oh, let me filter down manual, and then literally you're gonna miss out on maybe 20% of the cars that are mislisted, and they're actually
Yeah.
listed under auto, but in the pictures you can see they're manual. So like,
Yeah.
they're all little small nuances to like platforms that are not hugely invested in like a bring a trailer or something like that.
Right. Um, so just one closing topic on this, and it's just kind of like details for people to look out for very quickly. When you're looking at these cars, and you're trying to get the best value of the model, look at production numbers, look at colors, find how many were built, right? And those colors, those are very big factors that, I mean, you'll see the reflection in the price, but regardless, it's something very important to look after because sometimes it's like, I mean, hell, like I'm really looking in for an E55 and like I didn't know that they made it in green, right? So it's like sometimes it's like you'll see that car and you didn't even know that they made a certain color. And that's the one that you want to go for, right? Or those. So I don't know if you want to add a little bit more on like the things to look for on where to buy a car. Um, but if not, we can go to the closing question.
I mean, like I said, the forums too, dude. Like when marketplace is not hitting, I'm not gonna lie, this is like way too much game to be giving y'all. I'd be hitting them classified sections in the forums because like they're real ones. Like the forum owners,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
real owners. They've been on the platform. This one owner car, they bought it brand new from whoever, when it was brand new, they ordered it, expected out how they wanted. And like that's the guy you want to go to because like they babied that car and
Yeah.
they've done all of the stuff they're supposed to do. They're like the true genuine owner. And sometimes you'd be surprised at how they're not even at market price sometimes they're below market price,
Hmm.
but it's just listed on the forums. And if you're a
Right.
forumer and you've been on the forums and you have some rapport with these people, just like anything else, like the homies will hook you up.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
if you've been tapped in with this network and people are like, yeah, bro, like I wouldn't want it to go to anyone else type of thing.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll cut you a small deal of like, it's already 10% under the market. Maybe you
Hmm.
come like 5% less than that. They're like, it's fine. I don't care.
Right.
So that's all I would add on to that.
Yeah. See you guys. This is why you stay until the end of the episode because then Savon puts you on some game. He plugs you in, man.
Hey, you guys, those estate sales and the senior communities, that's some crazy stuff right there.
That's literally, yeah, dude. I mean, that's something that I learned from a long time because a lot of the cars I've bought are from old people, and
Yeah.
it's like, so, and just like my current favorite sandwich shop at the moment is in a senior like living area, and so it's like there's like a street corner there. Always see the cars. Like, I mean, they're not cars that I want. They'll be like, Golfs or whatever, but it's the cleanest Golf you've ever seen. It's like paint super clean. It's like it's hard not to like, right?
You don't want it
So
because you have nothing to do with it. If you figured out something to do with it, you're like, I'm buying that golf, even if I'm like using it, because I know there's this weird conversion between like, I don't even know, people who own Corvettes or something and they want to switch to a golf. It's just like, it's not a real thing, but
right.
sometimes there are those weird conversions where like a community will go from like, let's just say my platform, people would go from like a Genesis coupe to like a WRX or STI a lot of the times.
Mhm.
It's a weird thing. So it's like if you were the owner of like one way or the other, maybe you could, score a deal.
Right.
You could deal. So yeah.
All right. So closing question, man. If money and resources wasn't an issue for you, what car would you restore and why?
That's a good question. Um, I'm always torn. I don't know how far I want to get into the restoration thing because like it's a lot. But I like the what do you call them? Almost like a touring car or like Trans Am series style of car. So like any old muscle car that's modernized and put like on a modern chassis with like
Right.
fuel motor.
Yeah.
I really like the Cudas. Like Cudas are so fire to me.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
could get
Yeah.
a freaking purple Cuda or like I don't remember the paint color, but it's like this almost looks like a Ruby Star Red from Porsche, but on a
Hmm.
Cuda that they had factory. If I could get a modern variant of that, like with the old Cuda body style, but like even if it's just like a scat pack motor and a 6-speed manual transmission and the big brakes, as just like a cool touring street car, that would be so sick. But also I really like Carrera GTs, and Carrera GTs like my pinnacle car. So like you don't really need to restore them, but there's a couple companies now that go through and like redo the whole thing, and they'll paint them however you want, put modern
Hmm.
suspension and
Yeah.
bushing on them. So like those are my two variations, and they're both very extreme. So it's either like purple Carrera GT restored with wheels I want on it because it's like center lock, so all that would be custom, or a old Trans Am like touring car style Cuda. That would be my pick.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess, the question was for one car, but I mean, let's do three, right? So muscle no. So muscle
Okay,
car for
three.
me, it's like
I gotta add the truck back in there, which is like from the other episode, which is like a square body. Oh
there you go,
no,
man.
no, 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 no.
you're grabbing
Interna-
my thoughts, man. You're stealing them from me, man.
an international like S1600 or S1700 from like the 60s. That's what I would do.
Right,
Restore that modern chassis. Hopefully crew cab if I can find one, but they're super rare.
right,
And have that as like a cool hauler. Like that's what I would use
right.
it. So yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I'm like a straight shooter when it comes to these because it's like I just really appreciate the design and like what made these cars iconic. So I mean, if muscle car, I'm 69 Camaro SS, and I think I like how you added that modern twist on it because I've seen builds that they do that, and it's just kind of like it's such a great mixture, you know. It just brings more alive like what these cars were aspiring to be at the time. So it's like 69 Camaro, absolutely. Truck wise, OBS, Ford. It's because it's like I look at that truck and I'm like, for whatever it is, it's like I I want you for the rest of my life.
Right,
And it's like, and I know whatever comes in my life, like you're gonna be able to do just fine with it. You're gonna fit right in to my life, for
right.
whatever I need. If I need to move stuff, if you're gonna go camping somewhere and you're taking people and it fits right in, right? And then like modern classic would be RS4. Maybe
Which one? Which generation? Like B6, B7,
B7,
B7.
B7 RS4, absolutely. Um, I don't know if I do much. I know people do, the supercharge on that one, the
Mm.
supercharger, but I'm like, I don't know if I do that because I do appreciate the NA aspect about it.
Keep it
Um,
pure.
keep it pure, you know.
What color are we saying on the RS4? They got some fire colors back then. They got that.
I'm still, I'm biased, man. The dark blue.
They got okay. See, I would
Because
go.
it's like I had my S4 that I had, the Audi S4, the B6 was
Yeah,
that color, and it's funny. It's like I didn't pick that color. I did a trade in for that car, and
yeah.
then it's just kind of like you know it grew on to me by just like driving it and taking it to certain places. Like that color just sits very well.
That
It
personal
fits in a
nostalgia.
lot of landscapes. What's up?
That personal nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly. So, um, I never thought how much that color would actually grow on me. It's like I used to be like very like, oh, give me a black car and like I'm cool. And I still like black cars, don't get me wrong. But it's like that allows me to have some color in there, but it's not like
It's darker.
doesn't pop out too much or whatever. And I feel like it
Solo.
like,
Yeah,
fits the settings and stuff like that. I like doing canyon runs and it's like, if you got some nature stuff like blue and green fit really well.
yeah,
And it's like if you're in like I don't know, I've taken it to the city and I just would see it parked on the street and it's just like goes good with the buildings at the same time. So
yeah. It makes
yeah,
sense. What's the third
so
pick?
that was the third pick. It was the Camaro, the OBS, and then
Yeah, you're
the
right.
RS4.
Not bad. Not bad. I thought
Yeah.
there was, I know there's
So
more. There's no exotic.
oh, there's a shit ton more.
Wild card. What's the exotic?
Yeah.
You
All
know.
right then. Well, thanks for tuning in, you guys. It was a pleasure dropping this like stuff. It's like